What is the educational value of a game learning game? My name is Dr. Nicholas Glisserman. I'm a PhD historian and the Chief Academic Officer at Game Learning. Today, I'll be talking you through what and how students learn when they play one of our history games. We'll be playing The Adventures of Lewis and Clark, which is a turn-based geographic exploration game. Each game begins with an introductory message, in this case from President Thomas Jefferson. He's telling us about our mission to find an overland route to the Pacific Ocean. Okay, here we are in Harper's Ferry. Each number around us represents travel time in days. To move, we simply click one of the hexagons. Going over hills and mountains takes longer than traveling on flat land. Roads and rivers are the fastest way to go. This lesson in historical geography, taught through a core game mechanic, is a great example of the invisible learning that happens in all of our games. Right off the bat, we get a historic moment showing Lewis's itinerary. You'll notice this message reinforces the introduction from Jefferson, especially our goal of reaching the Pacific Ocean. The message also contains a primary source image that gives students a feel for the textures of the past. Instructions at the top of the screen break down the larger mission into a series of smaller objectives. Right now, we need to head to Pittsburgh. An arrow points us to our destination. Ah, our unlimited credit has just come through. That means we can stock up for our journey. We're planting a seed here around the idea of money and currency, so stay tuned. And you'll notice again, we're seeing another primary source image. When we reach Pittsburgh, we get a conversation. This is where assessment happens. It's a soft question that feels very conversational. Hello there, friend. You look the adventuresome type. We have 3 options to choose from. Right now, I'll demonstrate what happens when a student chooses the right answer. I'm off to see the Pacific. First, the student gets EDU points that go into the teacher dashboard, so the teacher can track learning. The student also gets an in-game reward that will help them survive. Questions start out easy as a way of gently encouraging all students. As the game progresses, the questions get more conceptual and more challenging. You'll notice that the dialogue text scrolls by slowly, and before a line goes off screen, students have to respond. This gives slow readers the chance to catch up, while faster readers can simply click through. This is a game with a death element, which kids go crazy for. Usually, the first time they play, they click everything without reading. Then, they die. They try again without reading, and they get the same result. Usually, it's on the third go-around when something magical happens. They start reading because they understand it's essential to their survival, and that's when we have them. Great, it seems we've gotten a letter from Clark, and we're going to meet him in Clarksville. Before we go, I'm going to do a little trading in town. I simply click the trade icon in the upper right-hand corner. We'll get some food, and we'll get some clothes. Included in this game is a series of mini-games. You can fish or even go hunting with a red light, green light game. These are essential to survival when you can't trade. Other mini-games highlight the very real challenges that Lewis and Clark faced on their expedition. Sometimes they were chased by bears. Other times they had to navigate rough stretches of river. So now we get a historical moment about wampum, which we learn is like currency. We can trade with it. Funny story about this. The first time we product tested this game, one student actually paused the game to look up wampum on Wikipedia. You see, well-designed educational games have a way of sparking curiosity and encouraging learning to continue outside of the game. Now, we're talking to a fur trader, and we're going to get a question about wampum. I think it's a toy. Okay. He doesn't know anything about toys. We get a soft correction and a chance to answer the question again. Anybody going to Indian country should take wampum. So we get a weighted EDU point, and more importantly, some wampum, which we're going to need very soon. We rendezvous with William Clark and another character named York. York was Clark's slave and was a key member of the expedition. We know from very limited documentary evidence that after the expedition, York repeatedly insisted on being freed for his contributions. In the game, York explains how it feels to be a slave and how he yearns for freedom. During the return part of the voyage, York warns us that Western expansion, facilitated by this expedition, would have a dark side, namely, the removal of native peoples and the growth of slavery. This is a great example of how we help students develop empathic connections to specific characters. We then leverage those historical figures to tell larger stories, in this case about slavery. The game continues in this fashion until we reach St. Louis. Confronting us there are dark clouds representing the end of our knowledge. We no longer know what the territory ahead looks like. As we proceed, the clouds lift. Our goal is to find the head of the Missouri River, which we'll do through trial and error. The more students play, the more they remember the correct pathway, thereby fostering spatial cognition and memory skills. The big takeaway of this game is just how hard it was for Lewis and Clark to crisscross our continent when they didn't know in advance where they were going. I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration. Thanks for listening, and for more information, please email us at info@gamelearning.co.